journaling will help to begin to illuminate traumas in your life that have created the very disempowering patterns or triggers that you experience as a cycle that create suffering. And so we uncover these triggers, we uncover these emotions or feelings that we've been avoiding and repressing. We uncover the bodily sensations that we've been ignoring and suppressing and really becoming numb around. And we begin to see through this journey of exploration that there are indeed processes that are working covertly and disempowering us. One of the first things that I get my clients to do when they start a coaching and counseling journey is to begin to journal. Now, this actually is one of the key tools that provides huge levels of self-awareness. And ultimately, it's self-awareness that we need to be able to heal and become healthy and create a sense of inner peace. And so today I'm going to talk about journaling and the process of journaling, how it can absolutely provide magic and illumination in your life. It's not always easy, but it's a discipline that is highly advantageous and is highly recommended if you are on that journey of becoming whole and healthy and wanting to experience life through the lens of adventure and delight rather than anxiety and struggle and survival and suffering. So the first part of journaling is really understanding the importance of it. I've described a little bit of why it's important, but recognizing that journaling is actually a practice that allows you to look into the shadows. There's always shadows within a life lived as a human because of trauma, because of the experience of contrast, which is necessary to provide expansion. But we go through these experiences of trauma or wounding where they don't have to be big Hollywood-style traumas. They can be as simple as when you were 2 years old, your parents decided to have another child. And there are so many little T traumas in our lives. And it always amazes me that, people think that they're little forms of suffering because they didn't have a big trauma that, should be written into Reader's Digest, that they should disregard it. No. So the process of journaling is really about seeing. It's about seeing into the blind spots to be able to change what is directing our lives and creating these filters of perception that lead us to see pain and suffering instead of joy and delight. And so obviously, as you begin to increase your levels of self-awareness through journaling, you begin to increase your levels of self-compassion. You start to see why you do what you do, why you think how you think, and why you feel how you feel. And obviously, when you really start to understand the process and you reverse engineer that, you start to see that there's no blaming or fault, or there's no bad person within you. You simply have done the best you could with the programming, resources, and knowledge that you received. And so self-compassion rises within you. And as you begin to love yourself with that level of compassion, you begin to grow inner trust. You begin to feel that you can be with yourself. And you begin to build a relationship with yourself, which is really what the basis or foundation of self-love and self-esteem and self-worth relies upon, is a strong relationship with ourselves. When we live our lives in denial, running away from these shadows and blind spots that we're avoiding, we inevitably don't have a relationship with ourselves. And this trickles into our life in profound ways. Our relationship with ourselves is a direct reflection of the relationship we have with every other person in our lives. So you can see why journaling becomes fundamental to raising our levels of self-awareness and growing our relationship with ourselves. Understanding that journaling allows you to recognize subconscious strategies that have been causing suffering in your life. We can't deal with the elephant in the room until we see, acknowledge, and validate the elephant is there. And that's what journaling allows us to do. So how do we prepare to journal? Well, essentially, I like to encourage those who are happy to write, old-fashioned writing with a pen and paper, to buy a book or something that is easy to write into the pages. And if you're not the kind of person who likes to write, with that holding a pen, then feel free to grab an app that dictates what you speak. There's so many free apps now, and you can literally just speak into this app and describe the emotions, the triggers, the patterns, the bodily sensations that you've observed in your day. Either way, what we're doing is we're spending conscious time going over, like pattern recognition. We're collecting data about our thoughts, words, and deeds in a day. And when we do that, we are able to look at our programming, and we're able to then reverse engineer and get to the root cause, or the stories that we've been telling ourselves over and over again. So find a quiet and comfortable space where you're able to spend conscious time doing this. This is a time where we mustn't be distracted or multitasking. This is one-on-one time with ourselves. Like I said, this is building a relationship with ourselves. We're getting to know ourselves. Know thyself is absolutely the door to building an inner foundation of unshakable peace. We have to know ourselves. And so set aside dedicated time in your day. I like to journal at night so that I can reflect back upon the day and then go to sleep afterwards, maybe putting out a quest or a question to my inner self, to my heart, to be able to integrate and provide more direction and guidance the next day or in my dreams. Now, part of journaling is actually about beginning to learn how to feel. This is a huge part of journaling. Journaling is the step before shadow work. And I've talked about shadow work being immensely important to integrate our repressed emotions, to release old stories, to begin to operate from a space of sovereignty and not through our programming of old narratives that keep us stuck and small and afraid. So we're in the process of validating and acknowledging unfelt emotions. So journaling enables us to begin to track and acknowledge these emotions that we might not be allowing ourselves to feel. Most of us are overthinking, which means that we're under feeling. But feeling is the language of the heart. We need to allow ourselves to feel to begin to open our hearts, which is really where our inner guidance system lives. And so journaling enables us to begin to acknowledge these feelings and validate any pain and discomfort that we might have felt. And this might be sat inside our bodies for decades. So often when we begin this journaling process, we can open up ourselves to floods of emotions if we allow ourselves to finally feel. And we need to understand that this is not dwelling in negativity. Feeling our emotions, it's reclaiming our power by facing emotions head on. I'm sure you might have heard the saying, we need to break down to break through. These repressed emotions that we hold down every day are taking enormous amounts of energy from us. And we can let these go by feeling them, by allowing ourselves to complete the feeling that we blocked when we were kids. Usually most of our feelings that we've repressed have been stemmed from childhood. So journaling is about identifying hidden beliefs and wounds within ourselves. We want to identify these hidden beliefs. Beliefs form our programming. We receive most of our core beliefs up until the age of 7, when they become crystallized and they form our view of the world and create our filter system of perception. So these are absolutely impact our emotional regulation, our choices, our daily motivation, how we see the world, and how much energy we have moving forward towards our dreams and visions for ourselves. So we want to focus on recognizing these beliefs that are tied to our reactions. When you are able to see a belief is absolutely just a generalization or a distortion or a deletion of the truth of the matter, and you are able to reframe that and let go of all these stories that you've held around this belief, you're able to finally change the way you react to life. You now can form responses instead of just vomiting out your feelings or emotions on others and creating great harm. So this is absolutely about releasing root wounds. Journaling is about reverse engineering or tracking back to the origins of these beliefs, these stories that we've told ourselves are true for our lives, that have created our filters of perception. And so releasing root wounds is about first acknowledging that these stories exist within our lives, like the elephant in the room, and then allowing ourselves to release these stories through feeling them. Acknowledging the fear, the pain, the sadness, the guilt, the frustration, the shame, the resentment, all of the range of emotions that we've held back feeling that are associated with these stories and beliefs that create a lot of emotional dysregulation. So we need to recognize and acknowledge these beliefs as an adult in a nurturing manner. And when I mean nurturing, I mean the way you would treat a child who first hurt themselves and is scared or afraid or sad. We don't tell that child they're wrong or to stop feeling. No, we have to treat ourselves the same way we would treat our inner child, with unconditional love. So we release root wounds by nurturing ourselves, with acknowledging and validating the right to feel everything and to complete that feeling, so that it absolutely is gone. It's released from our body. It's no longer held within our nervous system as a blockage. We can allow the flow of energy back through our body so that we can be present, not stuck in a story in the past or an anxiety in the future. We need to embrace this process. Many of us spend a lifetime running away from the very process that journaling brings up, and that is looking at ourselves and looking at our shadows. We spend a lifetime running away from that because we deem it as something very, very scary, like the monster in the cupboard. But ultimately what we find out is when we turn the light on through the act of observing, looking, seeing these beliefs and these root wounds, the monster disappears. It's never as scary as we think. It's just an uncomfortable energy. So being able to be courageous enough, which is opening your heart, to feel and embrace this process is absolutely a warrior move. It means that you are on the hero's journey. It means that you are finally showing congruence within your thoughts, words, and deeds. You are showing a degree of integrity. You're not denying or disowning parts of you. You are facing the needs that you have deep within to be seen and heard. All the parts of you, not just the positive emotions, but all the emotions, without deeming them as good or bad anymore. So we need to be able to trust this process and have faith in the journey of journaling. I can attest to it in the lives of all of my clients that I've witnessed. The process of journaling absolutely is a powerful tool, and in my own life, absolutely. Now, part of journaling is also realizing the direction that our lives have been going in when we've had our blinders on, how we've just been flowing into relentless cycles of suffering because we're not aware of those covert programs running our show. When we finally look, then we are able to take control, and we're able to decide and choose what we think about and how we react in our lives. And this becomes an opportunity to set intentions that are positive, that create joy and delight, that create a vibration in our lives, that manifest into more reasons to feel good. So journaling isn't just about going over all the shadows. It's also about setting intentions and realizing that you have far more power than you realize. It's very liberating. You realize your own sovereignty. So this is absolutely the hero's journey. You will return to the ordinary world with gifts, with friends, with helpers, with allies. And it's a wonderful adventure if you can begin to see life as an adventure rather than just survival. So it's also a continuing practice. Journaling is not something that you might just do for 3 months. Journaling is a lifelong discipline. Now, it doesn't always have to be written down, but it might become more innate, a habit of self-awareness, a habit of stopping and recognizing in the moment where you are triggered or where an old wound or story has arisen, and how you can actually not react anymore, but you can take control, which means taking full responsibility for your life. You can begin to take full responsibility in every moment, and you begin to feel in every moment rather than keeping a closed heart like we did when we was in survival mode. You begin to feel and allow the nervous system to do what it's always meant to do, which is have energy flow in and out within the same moment. So you are experiencing everything now without holding on to it as an old story, as an old wound. So it's a wonderful continuing practice, and you'll get better and better at it as you proceed. You know, if you think about it, you spent 7 years, our first 7 years, in a hypnotic brainwave state as a child, where we soaked up everything around us. We soaked up our core programming, and that became crystallized. 7 years it took to create programs. If you think about journaling, we need at least 7 years to begin the process of changing our programming, of taking the layers of those filters of perception that caused us to muddy our view of life, of releasing those, releasing layers and layers of unfelt emotions, repressed emotions, and letting go of beliefs that don't serve us, and reprogramming through positive intention who we really want to be and what we really want to experience. So of course it's going to be a lifelong practice, and you'll find it becomes quite delightful as you become more self-aware and self-compassionate, and you build that inner guidance system up so that it is the way you navigate life. You are able to receive in each moment intelligence and guidance and wisdom and intuition to move forward one step at a time while remaining in the moment in trust. We're building inner trust when we become more self-aware and self-compassionate. And you'll find life is so much more peaceful. It's well worth it. So I just want to acknowledge the importance of journaling. Now, an additional practice to journaling is gratitude. You can absolutely find that you will build a trajectory towards your optimal future self experience when you start to acknowledge and validate those moments in your day that were beautiful, that were delightful, that were joyful, that were fulfilling. Write them down, or at least acknowledge as they occur. And what will happen is when you're in a state of appreciation, gratitude, and compassion and joy, you attract more of that. You will create a life of feeling good. And remembering you don't get what you want, you get what you are, what you're vibrating. You will experience a life of flow and grace. So I'd encourage you to tack on that gratitude practice when you journal and become more aware. I hope this has been helpful and that you find the journaling process to be uplifting, providing with self-awareness and inner joy and inner direction